All right, looks like we're live. Welcome back, guys. Got another exciting episode, Madcore Hunter podcast. Got Danny with me, and then right here next to him, I've got Codey Redd, and very excited about this. Met Cody through family, and got this episode together. I'm real excited. You can kind of see half of what's in his background there, and that's going to be the topic of today. Probably a lot of you might recognize that deer. But real excited to get into this. So, Cody, welcome to the podcast, man. I'm really glad you agreed to do this.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate you having me on. Really do.
Absolutely. It's going to be exciting. Danny, what have you been up to, man?
Just working, wishing I was hunting basically, but I did get to sneak out on Saturday evening and Sunday morning trying to help my buddy Jordan. I got in the stand, was trying to film that with him. Sunday was really bad. We had 30-mile-an-hour winds and didn't see much, but Saturday night we had a close encounter with a pretty good public land deer. I got him stopped. He wasn't with a doe or anything. He was in a hurry where he was going. Got him stopped. He ran through an opening at 40. By the time we seen him, I got him stopped just past his opening. And dude, he definitely a mature deer because two grunts. He stopped, locked on, where we had made the grunts from. And man, it was, I don't know, 10 minutes that deer just never moved. He just stared. I
Uh,
think I saw him finally put his head down. And I don't know if he was just sniffing or eating something there for just a second, but I bet that was after 6 minutes of standing there, and he still did not leave that spot, basically just staring up. And I let him get over the ridge after he left after about 10 minutes and snort wheezed at him. And dude, he did not like it. I don't know what was up with that, whether it was just the fact that he didn't see another deer, but he just kind of kept going the way he was going. But looked like it was probably he looked wide, man. He looked like he was 18 inches wide probably and had long tines. I don't know if he was just an 8 or a 10. I just never could. I could see his butt when I was looking through binos. I just couldn't get on him to see what he had, where he was standing. But that was kind of cool and had some does real close, but that was only buck. But the spot we were in there it's tore up. There was scrapes all over the place where we were at. So hoping to get back there. But North Dakota gun season starts this weekend. So I don't know if we're going to be able to get much done.
well, at least you saw a mature deer. I mean, I
Yeah.
I filmed I filmed a pretty good one the other night, but just not what I was looking for. If I had a recurve, maybe, because he was like 10 yards away, and it was picture perfect. Came in, hit a scrape, came right by me, followed my scent trail. That I kind of laid down. But it's ramping up here in Indiana. Cody, what have you been seeing? Have you been getting out much?
Yeah, I've actually made my 12th or 13th sit last night, and just a bunch of 3 and 4 year olds. Nothing, no mature bucks that I've seen on the hoof, anyways. But I'm hoping with this cold front rolling in this next week, it'll start ramping up for me. So we'll see what happens. I know there's a lot of chasing going on right now. Some buddies have been mentioning and what the cameras are showing. So we'll see what happens, but nothing too spectacular.
Are you hunting Indiana or Ohio right now?
Mostly Indiana right now. I think I'm gonna switch it up here. Probably this weekend, right before our gun season comes in, and hunt Ohio for a little bit and let my Indiana spots rest for gun season or before gun season gets here.
Right on. Danny, did you have something? Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to ask you if you were seeing the same thing. Were you starting to see any chasing on camera? I know, uh, getting pictures out of Illinois. I'm heading to Illinois here it's late. It's on the 13th, but I had to work here the first two weeks of November this year. But definitely had a couple bucks on there chasing does. It's been a little slow, but definitely starting to see them trailing does on the cameras.
Yeah. Um, what's do you have any good ones on camera? Of course, you don't have to show pictures or anything, but do you have like a target buck this year on either state?
Um, No, nothing honestly specific. I'm just looking for a nice mature deer. I mean, whether he's a giant or not, if he's mature, I just want to get a nice mature buck down. But no, nothing really specific. I've seen a couple good ones that I would like to see in person or on the hoof, but other than that, I really don't have a specific deer picked out for this year.
Okay. Well, before we get into the story of what's over your shoulder there, I just kind of wanted to get to know you a little bit. I mean, what what started this? Because obviously the bug has bit you with this whitetail, and what else do you hunt? But what when did you start whitetail hunting, or did you start bird hunting first or turkey hunting? When did that start?
So I actually started whitetail hunting. That was the first thing I ever hunted for, and I killed my very first deer when I was 8 years old on a youth season. And my grandpa had got me into hunting in general, and basically just took me in and guided me through. And I killed my very first deer with him, and then a couple deer after that, and then he actually passed away when I was about 11 or 12 years old. So I only got to hunt with him, not for very long, but he pretty much got me into hunting and got that bug. And ever since then, I just kept wanting to chase it. But yeah, I started whitetail hunting first, and then I got into turkey hunting. My uncle got me into turkey hunting, and people think I'm crazy after killing that deer, but I love chasing turkeys. I
No, I
absolutely
can
love
relate,
turkey
man.
hunting. There's
Which
just
Danny
there's
can't.
something about it.
Yeah,
No,
Danny's not a turkey hunter.
I've killed plenty of turkeys, but I think you guys are crazy.
He's a rat
It's
chaser.
different, waking
It's
up with the
fun. Don't
woods
get me
and
wrong.
yeah, and then just hearing that gobbler hammering on the tree tops, man, it's something different. But
If they had horns, I think it would be a little bit different because I am obsessed with elk, but they got horns and make noise.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, elk would be a pretty similar chase. I've never hunted elk, but from the videos, it's just a big old turkey. It sounds like so.
Yeah, that's calling them in is very similar in some circumstances and stuff. But I think I'm that way with everything. Like I've shot a few bear, but they just anything that doesn't have antlers is not the same for me. Put it that way.
Yeah, I can see
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I can't blame you. Can't blame you
Yeah.
on that. But
So when did you get into archery? Because I mean, obviously it's bow season right now. You've been archery hunting. What got you into archery?
um, I really don't know what got me into archery. I would say growing up, just watching the outdoor channel when I was little. I mean, I've been obsessed with hunting. I mean, as long as I can remember, even though I killed my first deer at 8, but I mean, before that, I was just obsessed with it. Always wanting to read through the Bass Pro magazines and growing up watching the Outdoors channel and watching them shoot bows. And I've always had a bow in my hand since, man, as long as I can remember. Maybe since I could walk, I don't know, just a little toy bow or something. But I never really got too serious bow hunting until I'd say probably when I got to my teens, probably 13, 14. And I killed my very first archery deer when I was 15, and it was a little basket rack 9 pointer.
Yeah.
And I actually missed him twice, and he just stood there, and I got him with my third arrow, and I was so pumped. But that was my very first archery animal, and I've been obsessed with it ever since.
Yeah, dude, I love archery. I mean, I'm not against breaking a gun out. Danny's the same way, but it's just different getting up close, and usually you're hitting the rut, whether it be elk or deer or whatever. I'd say turkeys. It's fun to archery hunt turkeys, but like other people have said, they're made to be shot with a shotgun.
Yeah, I've never done that. Me and your dad were talking about that, and I think I'm going to give it a try this year for sure. We hunt, Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana, so I think one of those I'm going to give it a whirl and try to get one with my bow. But
Right
Yeah,
on.
it's pretty fun to shoot them with a bow too. You just got to be
That's how you got to be
particular. Use a
stealthy.
really big head and be particular about where you're aiming. I like to shoot them lower than you would think, straight above the leg with a big 2-inch or 3. I would use those mega meats. I don't know that I've shot one with those, but I used to use the rages on them and had a lot of luck with those on the turkey.
Gotcha. I thought about trying to go to the mega meats right now. I used a fixed blade on deer anyways, but I've seen a lot of good stuff about the severs and the mega meats, the G5s.
You better go sever. I bet Danny, if Danny had an African safari hunt, he'd probably still take mega meats.
Dude, with my setup, it's going to take a little bit for me to switch at the moment. I mean, the collars, I get the gripes on that. But I would recommend anybody, if you've got enough weight, if you're up there around that 500 grains and shooting 6, even 65 pounds probably would be fine. But if you're heavy and got the weight behind it, I would on whitetail for sure be using mechanical, because it's saved me personally on a couple bad shots where I looks horrible, think I'll never find that deer, and the deer didn't go 60 yards because it was a big enough cut that I caught an artery. One was along the spine, and I think another one was back in the front hip on a big deer. But that buck I left overnight because I thought it was a gut shot, and that deer I had hit the femoral artery, didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they got a big cutting diameter to them,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
And you got to stay off the shoulder. But I just, even with a fixed blade, if you hit the leg bone, they're probably not going to find that animal, even on a deer. You can shoot through a shoulder blade even with a fixed, with a fixed or a mechanical if you got enough, weight behind that. But
Yeah,
Cody,
I like my arrows a little heavy myself. So.
Yeah.
What broadhead are you shooting right now, Cody? What fixed is it?
I use the Magnum Stingers is what I use right now.
I killed a good buck
It's
with them
about
once.
I think it's an inch and 3/4 diameter cut on them, and a 125 grain head.
For not a very expensive head, those are a pretty nice head. I know Obendorf has shot a few animals with that, and I shot a elk with a recurve with that head, and it was buried in the log behind the dang thing. So I mean, it was a spike, but I had a recurve, and I hunt 1 year. I kind of messed around hunting with a recurve and was fortunate enough to get a shot at an elk. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, they're good. I mean, I've had really good luck. One of my biggest archery bucks are hanging up on the wall, and I shot him at like 15 yards with that head, and he didn't even go 30. So, I mean, they do good.
Yeah, they seem to perform well. They made me a little nervous just with the length of them, But
Yeah.
I mean, Obendorf, he's obsessed with tuning, and he swears by those heads as far as a fixed head. So he really likes
they're
them.
wonderful.
Yeah.
So let's get into the deer behind you there. Maybe move your camera over, please. Let's let the audience kind of see it. Golly.
Yeah.
What a giant. And after because Dad's the one he sent that to me. Man, I think I saw that deer like on Facebook or something, and there was a rave about it, but I don't want to get into it. But I was like, man, what a beautiful deer for one, and congratulations. Let's get what's the history here? I mean, had you been, watching for a couple years? Was it just, hey, he showed up? I mean, give me the backstory here. Where did it all begin to the end a little bit?
Yeah, so I've been hunting that deer for 4 years. So I got 4 years of I would say camera history with him, because I've only ever seen him in person twice, and the second time was when I harvested him. But so basically what got started with that deer is, this was back in 2020. One of my coworkers that I worked with, he also farms, and that was his farm that he owns the ground to. And he brought these sheds in, and just wanted me to look at. And this would have been, oh wait, I'm sorry, that was 21 sheds. 2020, he had told me about the deer. And I begged him to at least hang a camera or try to get in and hunt that deer, but they didn't allow any hunting. It's him and his dad's farm. And so I kept hearing about this deer all throughout 2020 because everybody was talking about him. Then 2021 rolls over. He brings his sheds in, and this would have been March of 21 into work. And he's like, I think this is a pretty big deer. And it was him. And he holds up the matching set of sheds that he found on along a fence row. And he said they were like within 5 feet apart from each other. And he's like, I think this is a pretty big deer. I was like, yeah, that's an absolute giant. and so I begged him if I could hunt, and he was like, let me talk to my dad. And so he finally got back with me, and he was like, you can hunt. And I was like, well, I appreciate that. So I got written permission for that year, for the year 2021. And I didn't have any cell cams at the time, and so I finally went and bought some cell cams and put out at that farm. And I think I put those out in August or September timeframe, and I didn't get him till October, and he had just blown up to a mega giant. And I'd say he was 7.5 years old. I did get his teeth age, so 21 he would
Gosh.
have been what, four, or no, excuse me, five-ish,
Mm-hmm.
five-ish. And so as a 4-year-old, when we measured those sheds, the matching set, he was without inside spread because we didn't know. The sheds themselves were 193 inches, just the sheds themselves.
Gosh.
Um, yeah, it was crazy. So as a 4-year-old, you knew he was pushing already, over 200. And for also, if anybody doesn't know, his official score was 231 and 5/8. So that's what I was going back to on when he was a 4-year-old for 190s. So fast forward, or anyways, so I put cameras out on the farm, and I got him October timeframe. And actually, the very first picture I got of him, he daylighted, and it was about 10 o'clock in the morning, coming around a field edge. And I kept getting pictures of him. I never did get the right wind, because I always, once I found out about that deer, I started doing my research on how to hunt a really mature deer because I haven't killed that big or a mature deer. So everything come back to, make sure your wind's right, human intrusion, staying out of the farm. So that's why I went with the cell cams so I could stay out. And lithium batteries are not cheap by no means, but it was worth it in that aspect.
Yeah.
And so I finally got the right winds. I don't think I ever slipped in there till that November, and I hunted quite a bit through November and December and never seen him. Had camera pictures of him, and none of them were in daylight after that first one I had of him. So fast forward to, this would be going into 2022. Still, I actually purchased more cameras to put on the farm so I could stay out, put them up in August timeframe. And I never did ever see the deer or get him on pictures or on cameras in velvet. But now one of my buddies that hunts the farm, butted up to that farm, he always had him in velvet. And so it's just a fence row that splits the property line. And I never had him in velvet, and he always did. So I knew he was still close in the area. Um, so in 2022 is the year I got married, and so my wife and I decided that we were going to take our honeymoon over Christmas Eve, and we drove down to Florida. And that's when, if you guys remember, or Eli, if you remember that blizzard that we had in 2020, where it got down to like negative 15, 20 degrees and snow, wind chill, and everything.
I do remember because
So
my dog got sick, actually, and my windshield cracked, so I had to take him to the vet. So, yeah, I do remember.
it was cold, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was freezing. Yeah, it cracked my
Yep.
windshield.
So I hunted him up till that time, till we left. And we make it down to Florida, and we're sitting poolside on Christmas Day, and it's like mid morning, and my trail cams are going off, and there he is. He's just standing out in the field. I had a bunch of pictures of him that day, and here I am in Florida sitting poolside.
Let
So,
let me ask you something. Do you have the dates that he daylighted? Because you said it was once in October and in December.
mhm.
Did you ever cross-reference that to see if there was like a red moon or anything?
Not necessarily a red moon, but I couldn't tell you how many times over the years I hunted that deer. I went back to those pictures, and one of them was a nighttime picture, but it was just right after daylight, and it was the very first daylight picture I had of him in October.
Mhm.
So kind of referencing up, and then that'll come into play up to the day that I killed him. Getting those same dates and stuff. That
Okay,
was in
yeah.
the same vicinity.
Right.
So that was 2022, and I hunted quite a bit that year for him. Once we got back home, hunted all the way up to January for him with my bow and everything. Never did find him, and I've checked the farm about March time frame for his sheds, and it's actually an 80-acre farm, and the majority of it is actually tillable and cattle pasture. So it's an overgrown cattle pasture with a big dip down in it and some hardwoods. It's super thick in there,
Mhm.
and in that cattle pasture it's a big cedar thicket, which where I started to think that's where he was bedding at. And so March time frame, when it was time for shed season, I went in there trying to find his sheds, never could find them. I looked over that whole entire 80 acres twice, and never did find them. And so the landowner, he was out tilling ground, and he gets this caught up in his basket. So I'm gonna back this up, maybe. So this was his sheds from 2022.
Oh my gosh.
Gee
Yeah,
whiz.
insane. So then, um, 2023 rolls around, and uh, I'm putting more pictures out or cameras out, and that was the first time I had seen him in velvet. And so this would have been August time frame,
How many
and I was
cameras are
walk
you running right now, out of curiosity? Or like for that deer, do you have
uh
10 out,
for
5?
that deer.
Yeah.
Actually, I only had two out.
Okay.
Because like I said, it's only there's a small piece of hardwood, so I always had one in there coming, like basically it would be out from his bedding, and then I had one along the field edge to where he would be, you know, coming out of his bedding, going to the field to eat or whatever.
Okay.
And so that year, 2023, I was walking in to I think I was changing batteries in a camera, and this was August time frame, and he had jumped up, and he was bedded down in the beans, and he had jumped up and took off like he was going to his actual bed in the cedar thicket, and just, I mean, you could only imagine the moose that is
Oh
coming up
yeah.
out of the beans. And so that was the first time I had ever seen him.
And he's
And
probably
then
200 there, I would say, because he was 190 when he brought the sheds. And I'd say, as you know, I mean, I don't, maybe I've
oh
seen a
yeah, I
200,
mean,
in person to see a 200 that close is pretty cool in itself.
How
yeah, and I've never seen a 200-inch deer, so I don't know what they look like. But
what's the
like,
shed that you just were showing us? What's that one score?
so that shed scored 103 and some change. I
So
can't remember
13 inches.
exactly.
He gained 13 inches, right? Because the ones you said was 90.
Yep, yep. And then on him now, his right side was 109. I have the sheet here that I'm looking at. It was 109 and 5/8.
Were you
So
Okay.
put
able
on.
were you able to talk that your buddy, the landowner, out of the sheds from 2020?
No, he wanted to keep those, and I
Yeah.
said that is completely fine. I was like, but please don't ever get rid of them. If you do, I'd love to have them.
Yeah.
But he let me keep this one because it goes with his pedestal mount there. Um, so that I was very fortunate enough to get that, and we never did find the other set to that. So I mean, it could be miles away or it could be somewhere still there, but never found it. But yeah, so I was going in there changing batteries out in that camera, and there he was, jumped up out of the beans, and just I was like, man, this year is gonna be the year. I'm getting closer, and unfortunately, I didn't get any closer because he still outsmarted me a bunch. I hunted hard for that deer in 23 for sure, and then never did see him again in 23. And the pictures actually started cutting down because I had a lot more pictures of him in 2022, and then in 2023 it just seemed like every once in a while he was coming around, but it seemed like he was either moving a lot more. I don't know whether it was due to bedding, does, food sources. I'm not sure.
Was there other
Um,
people? I'm sure the other people were hunting this deer, but like, was there like rave going on? Like, people coming in trying to get permission, money getting thrown, or was this pretty secretive? Like, I'm sure you weren't, telling everybody in the town, but you mentioned like the neighbor and such. You talked to him. I mean, had the word kind of spread at this point?
um, n- from my knowledge, not a whole lot. Like I said, the only person that I kind of knew of hunting that deer was the neighbor on the backside. Him and I didn't even find out he didn't start hunting that deer till actually 23. So
Okay.
um, so I found out he had heard about the deer in 2022, and then he uh basically started hunting the deer in 23. That's when he started throwing cameras out and stuff and getting pictures of him and all that. Um,
In 23, when you weren't getting pictures, do you think that he was living somewhere else, or do you think he was still on that farm?
I think he was still not on that particular farm because he also owns a farm across the street, and it's actually it would take like it's like a half mile in the middle of this field, and there's a big square patch woods. And for some reason, I feel like he was staying there a lot. I could be wrong on that. Because like I said, that the neighbor on the backside, he was getting pictures of him in velvet. So it's hard to tell, but for some reason my gut says that he was living there. I mean, that's what a mature deer would do, is find the smallest piece of woods out in the middle of a, cornfield, and uh stay in that little square woods. But now I will say, after I'll get there here in just a minute. Um so 2023 comes and goes, never had any personal encounters with him. Again, had a few pictures of him, not a whole lot. It seems like those were cutting down. So getting into 2024, um, I never actually had any pictures of the deer in 2024 up until December. It was like the first, I think it was December 9th is when I had the first picture of him. But so I didn't have a whole lot of intel to go off of this deer, but at this point he was really well known around the surrounding farms and houses. And so one of my buddies, uh, where he works at, there was a bunch of guys that were actually after this deer, and he called me up. It was, I want to say it was like the middle of November, and he was like, "Dude, I think your deer got poached." And
Mm.
because that's why he's like, I know you haven't been getting him on camera. And he said, I think that deer got poached. And it come to find out, it was actually a different deer. And I hate that, absolutely hate that, because I'm sure, that deer was a mega giant taken, illegally. But yeah, come to find out, it was a different deer. But this deer, there was a lot of people that had called in about this deer after they heard about the poaching and
Mm-hmm.
thought it was this deer. So my heart absolutely sank
Mm.
down in my stomach. I was so sick, after hearing that. And I had no pictures to confirm that it was him or a different deer. And so I kind of lost hope in hunting him. And I was still hunting. I was just trying to find another mature deer to maybe harvest. And I was hunting more in Indiana as well. and I had shot a buck opening morning here in Indiana and of gun rifle season, and then it was December 9th, and my wife doesn't like this, but it was like 3:30 in the morning, and my trail cam goes off, and of course I roll over because I seen that it was that camera, and I check it, and there he is, like up and close, just right there.
Oh.
And I woke her up. I was like, "Babe, he's alive! He's alive!" I was freaking out. I was shaking. I was laying in bed and I was shaking that this deer, just showed up. So the wind, honestly, to hunt that farm wasn't right for the longest time. So I hunted him the week prior before their 2 day. They only have a week long gun season, and I did hunt that the couple days I was able to get in there with the correct wind, and then I think it's like a couple weeks after, like right before Christmas, they have a weekend, so it's just Saturday and Sunday rifle hunt, and never did see him uh, on that whole week of gun season when I was able to hunt. I hunted him with my bow a couple times in between, and it was really hard to try to hunt this deer with a bow because I knew, like I said, mentioned in the cedar thickets is where I thought he was bedding at, and it's super hard to get close in that vicinity right there to try to hunt him with a bow. I really wanted to kill him with my bow, but it just didn't. Unfortunately, it didn't come out to that. So, anyways, we get to the weekend gun hunt, and I hunted Saturday morning. I went out and I didn't even see one deer at all, and I figured it was going to be good because we just had a little bit of snow that Friday night, and I couldn't hunt very long Saturday morning because my wife and I had to go to Bass Pro and do some Christmas shopping. So we're down in Bass Pro, and I tell you what, I think this buck is just by the grace of God, because when we were at Bass Pro, they got that big wall back there with all the mega giants. And I'm just standing there and I'm looking at this wall, and my wife comes over and I said, "Wouldn't it be something to kill an animal like that?" And that was that day. So we're heading home, and I was like, "I think I'm gonna go out tonight." So we went out, and we were actually kind of late getting back. So I didn't even get to my tree stand. I was like, "I'm just gonna sit on the ground because it's late and I don't want to make a whole lot of corruption in there." And so I'm sitting on the ground, and I'm not too far from the field edge, and I'm not too far from the cedar thicket either, but I'm not in the heart of it. So I'm just sitting on the ground, and the field edge is like uh 80 yards behind me, and it's a cut cornfield back there. And I can hear a deer grunt out in the cornfield. So it's really thick in there, so I could ease my way up to that fence row and find that uh find the field edge pretty good. And I mean, I haven't even been sitting there 10, 15 minutes maybe. And I mean, there's plenty of. I mean, I had an hour left of daylight too. So I get up to that field edge and I see a buck just chasing a doe right out of the field and goes down into the woods. I'm like, man, that was probably a really nice mature buck. And I'm just I'm sitting there. I had my binos out because I was trying to find that deer, and I just happened to look to my right, and about 150 yards up on a hill, and it was picture perfect. The sun was setting. The sun was on the hillside, and he had just come up out of that cedar thicket bedding where I thought he was, and he's just standing there on the field edge. I mean, it was. I can't even paint a picture of it, but if you could just imagine the sunset in
Oh
between
yeah.
his antlers, and he's just out there minding his no business, all by himself, eating, and so obviously, if you can't tell, my heart was like just pounding, and because I was like, it's actually him, and I couldn't believe it. And so 150 yards, I was using a 350 Legend straight wall cartridge, and so 150 yards is quite a poke, for the 350 Legend.
Mm-hmm.
So I dropped my pack and I army crawled up the fence row, and I get up, I try to find me a nice fence post where I could get up and rest on. And he's kind of he's not really working towards me, but he's not going away from me. But he's trying to get to the middle of the field, and he's just grazing along and heading out to the middle of the field. And so I prop the gun up, and I'm trying to range him, but I'm doing this. I had to try to collect myself, and I
Oh yeah.
finally clock him at like 120 yards. And at that point, if I didn't shoot him there, he was gonna. There's like a pretty big dip, and it goes down to a waterway out in this field, and that's where I think he was trying to work towards. So I propped the gun up and I put it on him, and I didn't even take the safety off because I'm like, I'm just trying to keep my heart rate down, and so I'm just looking at him through the crosshairs, and I mean I couldn't do it. I pulled up and I'm just like just shaking real bad, so I put the gun back up, and I finally flipped the safety off, and I'm getting ready to squeeze the trigger, and I come up again because I just couldn't do it. And I finally I looked up and I said a good Lord to the, or pray to the good Lord above. And I was like, just please, if I get an opportunity to shoot this deer, I was like, just let me hit him. And so I put it on him. I just took a slow, deep breath, and I just slowly squeezed that trigger, and you could hear it just thumping right behind the shoulder. And
Awesome.
a mature buck, I mean, if he doesn't know what's going on, his first reaction, I think, is to stand there and try to evaluate the situation first and see like what's going on. So I smoked him right behind the shoulder, and he's just standing there, and he's looking around. He don't know what happened. So I was like, if he's gonna stand there, I'm just gonna keep shooting.
Yeah.
So I
Oh
racked
yeah.
another one, and I shot him again, and that one thumped him again. It was kind of like right in the shoulder, and he drops down and he gets back up, and like he's not running, but he's kind of jogging out to the middle of this field. And so I shoot again, and I hit him again. That one was a little back, and he's still just standing there. And at this point, I'm
Gosh.
out of shells, so I had to crawl back to my bag about 10, 15 yards. I load up again, and at this point, he's probably 150, 160 yards out in the middle of this field, right before he gets down into that ravine or that waterway. So I racked another one, and I shot him, and that one, I mean, smoked him again right behind the shoulder. And he is just still standing there. And he finally like walks down, and he gets down to that waterway, and all I can see is just his antlers going across the field. And he's trying to make it into a finger point of one where the wood starts, and it's like a ditch, but it comes out to like a really narrow finger point. And all I can do is just watch his antlers get like limping down that waterway. And I see him, I'm looking through my binos, and I see him get to the waterway, like, excuse me, the finger point right where it starts. I just see his antlers go down. So I don't know if he's bedded there. I don't know if he died there. So my first reaction was just to back out. I had plenty of daylight. I could have went and looked, but I was kind of sick to my stomach because I didn't see him actually go down. So I just backed out. I immediately called my best friend and told him that I killed him. And no, he's like, "Are you sure it's the right deer?" I'm like, "Dude, there's no mistaking this deer." And then I called my wife, and then I called the landowner. And the landowner, he was like, "Well, I'm out of town right now." He's like, "I'll be back in like 20 minutes, half hour." I was like, "That's perfect. I'm gonna back out." I said, "I'll go to your house and I'll just wait for you till I want you to walk in with me." And so my buddy, he gets there, the landowner gets there, and I'm just trying to like gather myself, and I'm so sick to my stomach, and it's just a terrible feeling. But so we all gather up and we get some lights and we go out there, and as I mentioned earlier, back to the trail cam pics as Eli was talking about. So it was it would have been December 24th is when I had him on camera that day, and I killed him on December 21st. And so I knew sometime, they always say like within those 7 days of that one picture is the best time to see if they'll do it again. So I think that had some to do with it. It was honestly about, um, I don't know. Well, he was actually out there earlier back in December 24th because it was a lot colder. But yeah, we had that fresh snow or kind of fresh snow on the ground from Friday. And then, so we had some snow to go off of trying to find blood. And so we go down to where I thought I had heating map, and we find some blood, and it's decent red blood. We go down to that waterway, and I mean, it's not a spraying path, but a really decent blood trail to follow. And we follow that all the way down to that finger point, and we're about 80 yards away from the finger point, and all I can see is just his main beam. The landowner had shined a really bright LED flashlight along uh, that finger point. At this point, it is evening out, and I just see his main beam, and I was like, "There he is! There he is!" So we kind of walked around just to make sure, he was deceased, and we go up on him, and I dropped down to my knees. I'm bawling, and I'm like, "This is." Yeah, I did. I harvested a a really big deer, but most of it was just the 4-year journey of getting
Yeah.
to that point and how much that deer has taught me how to hunt a real mature animal. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a dime a dozen, I don't know. It's so hard. They're not a dime a dozen, but they're so hard to hunt. And yeah, just looking back at all the time spent, all the new information I was gathering to try to hunt this one specific deer. And one of my biggest bow kills I had harvested was the year before that. And I just took all that information that I was gathering to hunt that deer and put into that deer and got him killed my very first sit. So it's something else, and those deer will teach you more than you'll ever know. And but it was, joyful after that. That's for sure.
That's what I was gonna ask you. You hunting that deer, would you have shot, let's just say, a 160, stepped out like before? Like, were you set on that deer that year? I mean, I guess the year prior you kind of gave up because you thought he had passed, but I guess were you like that deer or nothing, or would you have shot another one? I guess if it had presented itself.
I was after that deer, and
Okay.
actually in 2023, I think it was also back that to that weekend gun hunt, and I actually passed up what it would have been one of the biggest deer I would have ever killed, and I passed him up, and he bedded at 50 yards in front of me with a doe all night long, and it was so tempting to do it, but I was like, well, you can't kill him if you kill something different,
Right.
so. Um, but yeah, that one was tough. But yeah, I was set on that deer. I've had so much time into them, but
No, I
man, they're
respect
just
that.
they're just magnificent
Do you
Gosh.
animals. Like one of God's greatest creations, right there.
Amen.
do you believe that buck was still actively breeding?
Oh man, I don't know. He just all the pictures that I got of him, he never seemed aggressive at all. Even I have one picture. This would have been about rut time, and there was like 4 other bucks within my camera, and they were all bristled up. And there's a picture in that picture. He's walking behind them, not no care in the world. So that
That's
would have been
interesting.
the year
Mhm.
prior, I think,
But he broke his
2023.
brow tine, so obviously he was probably fighting, unless that happened
I
in
don't think
velvet.
he was fighting. I think he was rubbing on a tree because there's actually still he was rubbing on a cedar tree, and I actually found the cedar tree that he was rubbing on. I didn't find his ton or nothing, but there's if you can't see it right now, but there's actually cedar shavings on his antler from where he was rubbing.
Yeah, mine
So I
had
don't
that
think
too.
he was ever. I mean, I can't say he was never aggressive, but as old as he was, I think he was honestly just trying to survive. So at that point, but he actually right there, if you can see that,
Hmm.
he actually had a 4-inch drop tine right there too. And later on, I had a trail cam pic sent to me, and it would have been October of 2024, the year I killed him. The picture has his brow tine and that 4-inch drop tine as well. But
Really?
yeah, he was
Gosh, dude,
Is
that's not
insane.
10
Yeah.
inches. Let's just say if it's 6, so that gets into
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Was that his biggest rack
Yes.
score
Yes,
wise?
sir. Yeah. Yeah, score wise, at least I do believe, because like I said, going off of, his right side, he was 103 at that time. And then that was 109. So I think this was I think that was it.
So he
was
probably
this
had
year.
like his crazy blow up around 4 and then just kind of put on mass and mostly, and maybe
And
did he
some
put on
length.
extra points after 4, or did he always
Yeah,
have what he's got?
I can try to find a picture. So he actually had like a third main beam that came out of his right side. And I got a
Really?
picture here. If you can see that. My wife actually made me this.
I say
But
that's
if you
what I
can
would do.
see that, that was his third main beam that he had. So he lost that and then put it in stickers. So like this, he had these stickers coming out, and then he's got even more coming out there. But just
Gosh.
crazy. Yeah.
So
But
okay,
I think that was the pinnacle for
yeah,
him. Yeah.
it's just interesting because I always like to see like how much, like we were talking to Corey here in Indiana that killed a big deer. And what was it? That deer had only put on like 15 inches, I think, between last year and this year, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think
Eli.
his was 167. I think it was 150s last year or something he thought.
And
But
I
yeah,
know
he had his sheds. What was it? 154
I don't
or
remember what I
something?
scored, but I think it was about 15 to 20 inches difference, in a pretty mature deer. But it seems like you read that 4 or 5 is probably when they're going to, have their biggest blow up, and just seems like it kind of follows the path that he did, where it's just going to be mass and abnormals and stuff after that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I was actually that's a good point, because I was actually listening to a podcast, and man, I can't remember which one it was, but it was just a couple days ago that they were saying that they think when a mature deer gets its biggest blow up is in the older age. Well, between that like 5, 6, and 7 age, because at that point their body is done growing, so they can put all that nutrition up into their antlers. Is what I gather from that. I think that's probably right, but I could be wrong on that as well. But I just thought that was good information to gather as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So like, we're all about shooting whatever. We all want to get a big mature buck, but I do want to know some measurements on this deer, just so the guys that are listening to this that aren't watching it can have a little description of it. For one, like, what is his inside width? It looks crazy.
His inside spread is almost 26 inches, so
Oh
it
my
was
goodness.
25 and 5/8. Yep. And then his left main beam was 30 and an eighth, and his right main beam was 30 and 1/8.
Man, they're close. Are they
Yeah, very, very close.
are they dead
Yeah.
on? You said 30 and an eighth for both? Or
Yeah. Or that, excuse me, I'm sorry. That was the length of the first. Uh, yeah, that's right. The main beam. Yeah, that's right.
okay.
Yeah, 30 and an eighth, and 30.
So that buck
and
scores
1/8.
86 inches off of the main beams in the wood.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yep.
What
How
I
many
think you had the
scoreable
measurements
points?
on each side. What would the sides come out to total?
So the right side total was 109 and 5/8, and then the left side was 96 and 3/8. So
Scores 200
yeah, like
inches
I said,
without
he's
a
got a
spread. Yeah, that's
yeah.
amazing.
It's crazy. And for anybody out there too, I've never had a deer scored ever. So that's funny about that deer too, is like I mentioned earlier, my uncle is he's got me into he kind of took me under his wing, and we've been hunting together ever since. And I had told him when I was heading home, and I said I killed that Ohio deer, and he's like, "What do you think he scores?" I said, "I want to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's 200, but I've never seen a 170 deer, so I don't know what they look like." And so we get home, and I had taken him to my taxidermist, and they were both, him and his wife, they were both really good at scoring deer. And he's like, "I can get him within, a couple inches if you want me to rough score him." I said, "Yeah, go ahead if you want." So he's scoring him out, and she's adding it up, and he looks over at me first. He said, "What do you think he scores?" I said the same exact thing. I said, "I want to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's 200." He said, "You're a little far off." He said he's 230. He had him at like 229, I think is what he had him at, or something like that. Just a rough score. But I'm like, geez, a Pete. But I mean,
Gosh.
still to this day, I every time I see that deer, I can never, I can't believe I had harvested that deer.
What points wise, what is he as a mainframe? Is he like a 6x5?
Mainframe? Yeah, 6 by 5.
How many scoreable points?
18.
18.
He is.
Yep.
Gosh.
That congratulations. I mean, it's just amazing deer, let alone what the score is. But I mean, just the width on a whitetail, that's just unbelievable.
Yeah. And just to think, I mean, he's not the only one. I mean, there's more deer out there roaming around that we have no idea about that are like that. But just thinking that that dude had made it 7.5 years of his life, roaming around and being that big. And like I said, it just goes back to one of God's greatest creations. That's amazing what he can do to these animals. And that's another thing for us to, enjoy. And it's not about killing the animal, it's about, the time spent into that animal, because if you think about it, and a lot of people don't look at it this way, when you harvest an animal, you're taking that animal's life. So we need to give them, the highest of the high when it comes to them animals, because they're one of the toughest animals to, get put on the ground. And we're the first ones
Absolutely.
when we do it, to touch them. So we need
Mhm.
to, give them the greatest gratitude to that.
It always amazed me because like people out west don't understand the whitetail draw, but growing up with it, I got away from it for just a few years, and just like I'd be able to come back and do like some deer drives, but recently since about 18, I've started hunting pretty hard for whitetail again with a bow, hunting multiple states. But there's something special about them for sure, and definitely love chasing them. I wish I had more opportunity to hunt the same farms. I get a little bit in Illinois, or wish I owned my own farm, just because I do a lot of public land. So a lot of times I don't have history. So hearing your story with 4 years of history on one buck
Yeah.
is awesome. I've got a pretty good story with a public land that I have 2 years, and that seemed amazing to me. So that's
Yeah.
pretty
I
cool,
mean,
man.
even, having like 1 year,
Yeah.
it don't have to be a long time, but yeah, you get emotionally attached, after that long of a period. I don't know, it's crazy, but a lot of long sleepless nights, that's for sure.
Do you have a name for him?
Yeah, I called him Tall Tines.
Tall
Is,
time.
is what I called him.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
tall.
yeah.
Where does he land in the record books, out of curiosity? Because I thought somebody said, man, like he was real close if he just had a broad time. Maybe that was wrong. But I'm just curious because
Um,
I know it's Ohio, but that's still a lot of inches.
yeah. So he is number one in the state of Ohio for his category. That is irregular category. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Buckmasters. I'm still trying to, learn it myself too. But they break it down into 4 different categories, because they don't do any deductions, which
Yeah.
to me, I think that's right. I mean, you
Yeah.
shouldn't have to take away from an animal what he threw. But so that is where he stands in the record book. Is he's number one in the state of Ohio for irregular.
Did you do Boone and Crockett or not?
I did have a guy, he reached out to me and he did want to score him, and that was a rough day for me because I actually had the flu that day too. So on top of what I don't know, what he scored on that, I was really upset just because I didn't,
Well, I was upset mine
that's
too. Yeah, I think people are going away from Boone and Crockett. I want to say Buckmasters may be gaining a little bit of. I don't know. I'm like you. It's not like I'm putting huge deer in
yeah.
there
But
every year.
and again, like I'm new to this. I've never had a deer scored ever, so I'm new to that. And then like after he scored him, he was like two. He had him at I think at 231 as well. And then, deducting all the little points and stuff like that, I'm like, man, that's not right. You shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not down in nobody. I mean, you can do whatever you want to do. For me personally, I don't want to score a deer because that's not what I'm in it for. Um, but I'm just like, man, that's not right. And I actually had the Buckmaster. His name's Scott Beam, really really awesome dude, and he had reached out to me before actually. And again, I didn't know anything about scoring deer, so actually didn't even reach back out to him until after that. And and he's like, dude, I'll be more than happy to walk you through it and everything. So I took him up there and he walked me through everything. I'm like, that is how, to me personally, again, this is me saying that for myself, is that's how a deer should be scored. Is nothing taken away from him. If he grew it, it's it's there.
Yeah, like
But
I definitely like knowing the score of an animal. I don't get obsessed with it by any means over like,
mhm.
yeah, I mean, you see what's behind me, like, especially public land. I'm shooting 3.5-year-old deer when it comes by, but um, I like knowing the score. I like to be able to say, hey, I saw a 150 today, that kind of stuff. But I'm with you on I grew up on Pope and Young and Boone and Crockett and all that stuff. But when I score a deer, it's disappointing when you score something. It's like, oh, this thing scored 155. Oh, with deductions, he's 138,
Yeah,
So a
but
lot
I
of
mean,
times
we
anymore,
can't be in it for that though.
I score it like I would, for Pope and Young or Bruno and Crockett, but I use the gross score. And I've got a buck downstairs that's got, he's got like 10 inches of abnormals, and I just add that to, what the tape measure said. So I'm guessing it would be more like Buckmasters, because
Yeah,
I'm
I
with
mean,
you. I don't want to
it's
take anything
there.
away from what's there.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's there. But yeah, like I said, I don't do much scoring, and that's not what I'm in it for. I'm all about the teeth. So whatever they
Yeah.
age, I'm looking for that 5 year and up. But yeah,
Yeah.
last year was my best. I would say my best season I ever had. That was the first time I ever harvested a deer in Indiana and Ohio. So and both of them were mature bucks. So that was awesome.
That
Just to
is awesome,
accomplish.
man.
But
Do you feel
Congratulations
like,
again.
yeah, that is an
thank
amazing
you.
deer. Do you feel like he passed on genetics any?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I won't give up
Yeah,
too
I'm just
much
curious. I
information,
mean,
but yes,
you
I
would
do.
expect that there's got to be some out there that you can tell that come out of him, So
Oh yeah, yeah. Now the tough part's just I mean, thank you to the landowner. I still have permission there, so that didn't go away. I'm still the only one allowed to hunt it.
That's
But
awesome.
I mean, after that, there was, I mean, so many people beat down his door. One from actually the week leading up to before I killed that deer, there was 3 people that knocked on his door wanting permission to hunt that deer, and
Mhm.
because I mean, he like I said at that point he was well known, and the pictures were getting around and everything, and yeah, I mean, it was crazy, and as I was telling Eli, I mean, I had to deal obviously with the law and everything with the COs, and they were awesome, good to be about. And I think this is important too for the story. Um, so after the day after I had killed him, I live like right next to public land here in Indiana, and so we take him. I'm taking him from my house, and I had a transport tag and everything like that. So and to get to the main road, I have to go through the state park to get through there. So sure enough, I'm coming through the gate, and here comes a CO right behind me coming from the boat ranch, and he followed me for like 10 minutes, and I'm taking him to my family's butcher shop, and he followed me for like 10 minutes and finally flipped his lights on, and I pull over, and he was like, "You mind opening up your tailgate?" I was like, "Yeah, I have no problem." And at that point, I already had my license out, my signed permission slip, the record where I checked him in and everything. And I was like, "I killed him in Ohio." He's like, "Oh, I thought you killed him on public land." I'm like, "I've never heard about this deer." He's like, "This is the biggest deer I've ever seen in my life." I said, "Same here." So and he's like, "You're good." He's like, um, "You just know that I'll have to, tell the Ohio conservation officer for that county where I killed him." And I said, that's fine with me. I have no problem. So I get him to the family butcher shop there, and we get him caped out and everything. As soon as I get him caped out, I get a phone call, and it's the Ohio COs, and it wasn't. I mean, probably an hour and a half later, and so I'm on the phone with him, and he's like, "Do you mind bringing the antlers and everything back with you to the farm where you shot him?" I was like, "Yep." I said, "I'll have to call the landowner to let him know I'm coming there." They were like, "No problem." So I called the landowner. He met me out there. I had, like I said, my license, signed permission slip, and everything. And so I had, when I got there, they were checking him over and everything. And they were like, "Can we go back to where you shot him?" I said, "Absolutely." So we go back there, and actually, I had left my glove back there too, where I took it off to shoot. And I was like, "That's perfect." So I need to get my glove, and there's probably a shell casing because I didn't obviously pick them all up. I couldn't find most of them. So we get over there. I immediately found my glove. I said, "Right here's where I was standing." And we already had walked over the blood trail so they could see right where he was standing. And so we get over there, we find my glove, and I said, "Here's the shell casing as well." I found one laying right next to my glove there. And I said, "This is where I was standing." And so we followed the blood trail. They wanted to see the gut pile. So we followed it, and the gut pile's still laying there, fresh from obviously the day before. And he looks over at me, and he shakes my hand. He said, "Congratulations." He said, "That's one heck of a deer." He said, "Thank you for killing that deer because it's been the biggest pain in our butts because people have been calling in about that deer getting poached and stuff." So they were all over that area looking about it. And I'm just like, why would anybody ever do that to an animal? I mean, you can't justify that animal if, somebody ever does that. So,
What
Yeah.
um,
what was their reasoning? I mean, you were awful friendly about all the questions and stuff with Game and Fish, but what was their? I mean, were they being a pain or not? With it,
no, they were
it seems
wonderful.
like I would have a
So,
hard time with what you just described.
well, yeah, and I mean, I've never been in a situation like that
Yeah,
before too. So, but I was like, I know I did everything by the books.
yeah.
I mean, I had my permission slip. I have time stamped of where I had called people where I had checked him in. I was like, I know I'm good, but it's still you've never been in that situation before. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, they were awesome. I mean, I couldn't ask. There was two officers, and forgive me, I can't remember what their names are, but shout out to them. I mean, they were awesome about it. But the reason uh, that they actually got a hold of me was because the neighbor was upset that I had killed that deer, and he called me in.
Oh
So
my
that is
goodness.
actually why the COs had got in contact with me.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
can
So
relate. I can relate.
obviously
yeah,
you kill a big deer, you're excited, so it probably wasn't that pain, but I could just listen to you. Like, it's frustrating me that you even got asked. Like, I could get
Mm-hmm.
them asking you, "Hey, you killed it in this county," and maybe even if they wanted to ask the landowner, you got permission, you say, "Yeah," like that should have been in the story. You're showing them a lot more than what I feel like you should have had to, but good for you for going along with that. But I
yeah.
mean,
I
I'd have
mean,
probably been the same way with a deer of that caliber. Like, "Hey man, it's all good."
yeah, yeah. I mean, it is what it is. But and that's looking at that perspective. It is sorry that we do have to go through that
Yeah.
process, though. I mean, if you look at it that way, but unfortunately, that's people are going to do stupid things, and
No, I
it's
mean,
unbelievable what people do.
I
It really is.
I'm glad you agreed to do it, and I don't mind them doing that because we had a big deer get poached. And later on they scored him at 196, which it's not as big as yours. That's a huge deer. And we had his sheds, and he had grown to that age, and the same as you, for somebody to take his life unlike that. And it's a good thing I've never ran into that guy. I know where he lives, but it just pisses me off, and it's not right. And like you said, they're God's creation. You need to do it right, and do it by the book. There is no cheat code. That's where the gratification is doing everything right and outsmarting or outwitting, however you want to say, and putting the time in to kill these animals. Because if you're out there trying to use a cheat code, use a drone, spotlight, in Indiana you can't bait, I know Ohio you can, but follow regulations and do it correctly, and I would have done the same thing. I see where Danny's coming from, hey, I would want to have that peace of mind by doing everything, but I agree, like you didn't have to do all that stuff probably.
Yeah, and actually the crazy thing is, I never even posted a picture of that deer. Like, people knew before I got home that I had killed that deer.
Oh my
I
gosh.
kid you not. I had a phone call 30 minutes after I had got home. I was talking to my wife, and I get a phone call, and they were like, "Yeah, I want to see that deer." I'm like, I kind of got a little upset with them, 'cause I'm like, "How do you know I had already, I had killed this deer, and I hadn't even, posted a picture or nothing like that." And actually, I didn't even want to post him. And but the COs, they were kind of like, we got it, we checked everything, you're good. He's like, I would go ahead and post it if you want, just to kind of clear the air and stuff like that. So actually my wife posted it for me, because I couldn't even do it. But yeah, I mean it. And actually, this is uh get a picture here. I got a picture. The COs wanted a picture of him with him, so just to clear up any rumors out there or anything. I was checked, but yeah, I mean, like I said, they were awesome guys. I couldn't ask for any better COs. They really, and I mean, that's their job. That's what they're there to do. But that's me and him with him right here. So, yep, so, that's crazy.
That is.
Yeah. It's
yeah, I mean,
interesting, because I was glad you got into that story. Like, yeah, I definitely, have an opinion on that, but that was a question I was wanting to ask you, was what it's like when you shoot something that is of that caliber. It just seems like, especially back east, it seems like it can be a little bit of a pain in the butt when you shoot something this big. I mean, you get the same stuff out west, but I don't know. It's just hard for any of that stuff. My son-in-law was talking about it the other day with Game and Fish, wanted to check CWD on a deer that he had shot, and he's like, sure, but then they started asking, they want latitude and longitude of where he shot it, and it's like, dude, it's public land. Like, I'm sure they're not trying to do anything weird with it, but it's still like, some of us want a little bit of privacy on some of this stuff.
yeah,
Right.
and I think that was a big piece for that too. Is like, and that's what all my, because obviously, I had family and I had friends over that night to look at him, and they were like, "Dude, your world's gonna change after tonight." And
Yeah.
they were right, that's for sure. But it all goes back to it. It's a shame that we have to go
Yeah.
through that process. And I'm not putting COs down, because that is their job, and
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for them. But it is a shame that we do have to go through that process when a big deer, you know, to me, and I keep telling people this, is that deer is, yeah, I mean, he is a giant. And I didn't realize, you know, what I had shot. I didn't know he was that big at the time. But that deer is no different than a 147.5. They're just, he just, you know, got to grow a little bit bigger,
Mhm.
But
That's kind of
he's no different.
what you just said is kind of my point, is like, you ain't getting asked that when you shoot a 140,
Yeah.
so, but
Yeah. But
no, they
I
like,
get where they're coming from.
yep.
So I mean, like I said, people were calling him in November asking about that deer. So they've been watching that area for a long time. But I mean, it is what it is. But like I said, I'm very thankful I got the opportunity to harvest that animal, and I'm just super super thankful. And still to this day, I can't believe that I had harvested that deer. So
Congratulations again, man.
super.
It's one of best bucks I've ever laid my eyes on, and looks like you got an incredible mount. Also, it looks like your taxidermist did a really good job on that.
Yeah.
She's awesome. I told her I didn't want anybody else doing it, so I had to wait a while because she was full. But I told her, I was like, I'm not letting nobody else do that. So
Yeah.
No, dude. Congratulations. I'm glad you wanted to come on here. It's a great story. I wanted to, I didn't research anything. I wanted to meet you just like we're talking now. You know what I mean? Because you seem
absolutely.
like a great guy, man. You've referenced Christ, and faith's important to us, especially when I'm hunting. That's half the battle is just getting out there and getting one-on-one, and that's what it's about. And hopefully you have another successful year. I'm sure it might be a while before you can top that one, if ever. I don't like people saying you'll never kill a bigger one because it takes a little bit of that drive away. Because I hope you do. Hope I kill a bigger one, Danny kills a bigger one, but there is a limitation.
Absolutely.
You do need to find more purpose than just chasing that next one, which I think you have that. So that's awesome.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. I hope you guys do kill a bigger one. I mean, they're out there, like I said, and it's amazing that these creatures just walk around, and a lot of them don't ever, get eyes laid on them. But yeah, it's crazy. That's the reason I'm in it, just being out there. And a good day to me is watching a buck just chase does around, whether it's a young buck, because you're just watching them in their, natural habitat. And that's so cool to me just to be able to see that and get the opportunity to even do that. A lot of people don't get that opportunity. So I'm very thankful for that.
Absolutely, man. Well, I don't have anything else, man. It's a great story. Danny, do you have anything?
No, just congratulations and everybody that's hunting right now, and to you guys, good luck. Shoot straight when you get them big bucks coming in. So
Yep. Good luck, everybody. We'll see you next week.